when my parents kind of were going through a divorce and I was young, like getting on my hands and knees and getting ready to pray and being like, you suck.
Oh, so you went from cursing to
like I said, F-U's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So when I said MFing God, I mean
I don't think I've ever swore like his general direction.
Yeah, no, this was targeted directly towards
like
the man.
I've done the double barrel shotgun straight up in the air, but I felt ridiculous immediately as I did it.
No, so for me it felt great.
Really?
Yeah, so I was pissed. Thought he sucked. Completely useless to me.
Yeah.
Look at my life. What are you here for? What purpose do you serve? This is bullshit.
Yeah.
I believe in you enough. Welcome to the Lionz Den, episode 31. Again, my name's Eddy.
I'm Brad.
This is Alex.
Were you looking to see if I was recording or?
No, I was excited. 31's a big number. That was a look of, wow.
Yeah, so you looked down like, so it has happened, folks, where I forgot to hit record and we've been talking for a couple, 2-3 minutes. So today we're going to talk about, do you swear when you pray? And it's kind of goes into a bunch of other stuff, kind of like all these little guidelines that everyone's been given since they were kids, the do's and the don'ts as far as your faith goes or as far as like religion goes. So it's kind of an interesting topic. So I know I definitely have, not only have I swore, God has definitely been MF'd in many of prayers. I don't know about for the rest of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, numerous times.
No.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Saint Alex.
Yeah, no, way more than I'd like to admit. Yeah, and like you said, sometimes an MF session. Yeah,
I mean, I distinctively remember when my parents kind of were going through a divorce and I was young, like getting on my hands and knees and getting ready to pray and being like, you suck.
Oh, so you went from cursing to
like I said, F-U's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So when I said MFing God, I mean
I don't think I've ever swore like his general direction.
Yeah, no, this was targeted directly towards
like
the man.
I've done the double barrel shotgun straight up in the air, but I felt ridiculous immediately as I did it.
No, so for me it felt great.
Really?
Yeah, so I was pissed. Thought he sucked. Completely useless to me.
Yeah.
Look at my life. What are you here for? What purpose do you serve? This is bullshit.
Yeah.
I believe in you enough. You know, again, and I mean, even to this day, and I know we did a podcast on it, you know, again, I unequivocally know there's a God. There's no question in my mind. What role he plays in our day-to-day lives that I couldn't begin to tell you. I mean, I've obviously formulated opinions and theories and stuff like that. Really can't tell you. I can tell you there's been dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of prayers that have not been answered. So it's definitely not the genie that I thought it was, you know, so God, please keep my parents together. They were stay divorced, did not work. And there's hundreds of prayers beyond that. God, please this, God, please that, which usually leads to the topic of our conversation of cursing.
So you mean to tell me when you wouldn't get what you wanted, the curses?
Yeah, I was never like when things were great.
Gotcha.
Like, oh, hey, you God, thank you so much.
That's what I was kind of getting to.
Yeah, it was never, everything's so great in my life. F you, God.
Thank you so fucking much.
Right, yeah. So,
All right, guys, I don't need you anymore. We'll see you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was usually when things were bad.
Yeah.
I think the same thing. Like when my parents were, you know, as a kid, with divorced parents, you hope for that Disney whatever, and I think there was a lot of questions. As I got older, now my parents are drastically different. I could never imagine like the two of them together in like harmony. Like there's no way, you know.
Yeah.
But I think for me the swearing thing, not just with praying, but like obviously like I'm in the trades, I swear a lot. I deal with a lot of difficult things at work. The weird thing for me is I can't ever say like the GD word. Like you ask my wife, like it's the one like swear that like if I'm around somebody that says it, I kind of say like a little prayer, like God forgive them, they know what they're doing. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. I think it's like a respect thing, but I can't ever say it. Yeah.
So I'm definitely like that with JC.
Okay.
So Jesus, you'll get a goddamn.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll get goddamn. It comes out of my mouth.
I have a
lot.
goddamn for
More
every
like-
mood I'm in.
More like, it's joke. It has obviously nothing to do with the man. I won't go there with Jesus.
Yeah.
Like I won't say Jesus. Like it just even,
Right.
it's almost as bad as the N-word for me. Like
Right.
just
No,
thinking
that-
of
and
coming
that's-
out of my mouth. It's like, it's
And
like
that's the same
nails
with
on a
me, like,
chalkboard.
it doesn't. There's no logic behind it.
I mean, there's no logic behind why one's okay with me and why one isn't,
Right.
but
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know that one flies all the time and the other one I won't go near.
Yeah.
It's like the C word, N word. Like there's just certain ones I just won't go to, and anything with Jesus, I won't.
No, you don't touch it, huh?
No, especially like the full.
Yeah, well,
Jesus.
there's a JC and then there's a JFC.
What? Yeah, no,
Right.
Yeah, no. You might get punched around me if you say that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like it's that offensive to me.
Take it easy. I'm just bringing it up, bro. Scoot my chair back. And
Yeah, but like I said, to me, God damn,
Oh, I'm with you on. Like I said, I got a
That gets
goddamn
just-
for everything.
harmless to me. I don't know why. The other one's like
I
nails
think
on a
it's
chalkboard.
more so much like, especially people that aren't religious in any sense to some degree, and then kind of let it fly. It's like, you don't do that. I don't know why. It's
Right.
the weirdest. There's no logic. I think it's just a respect thing. It's
Yeah.
just a, same
Could
with,
be.
the JC thing. For
Well, that's kind of why we're talking about it,
Yeah.
because, like I said, it's an interesting topic, and then it just kind of starts there. So there's all kinds of stuff that you're not supposed to be doing if you're, quote unquote, a religious person.
Right.
Like you said, swearing. So I don't know if it was Harvard or Yale. It was one of them hoity-toity schools, like swearing is a sign of not only intelligence, but honesty. So if that's the case, I'm brilliant. And super honest.
Ma, did you hear that?
Yeah, it was a big, because the rumor around forever was people who swear more. I used to, when I was on social media, I used to see it all the time. Like, the more people swear, the more honest they are.
Yeah.
I found that was BS. Bullshit. Hey, let's use the words.
Right.
We're talking about it. But then I recently, this was like the last 2-3 months, something came out of one of the hoity-toity schools that it was a sign of intelligence for some reason. So.
Yeah. Years ago, I used to have
Makes me so happy
Like-
to hear you say that.
temper. I had
Yeah.
temper,
No,
and I think
for sure.
now, like, the temper's gone, but, if I'm doing something it's not going right, like the expletives, they'll fly left to right. And then I feel kind of better. I'm like, all right, I feel better. Got that out.
I mean, it's really supposed to be a podcast about cursing in general, but I mean, there's just a certain color to curse words.
Yeah.
They're just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an expression, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, there's just people like it used to be the opposite. So if you were cursing, it was a sign of being an idiot.
Right.
And your vocabulary wasn't strong enough to fill. But there's just certain curse words that you can't touch with normal vocabulary.
No. Yeah, I don't care how smart of an insult you have. There's a couple words I got in my repertoire that if I drop on you, it's going to make you feel this big.
No, I agree.
And everyone's going to turn and they're going to laugh.
No, I agree. I'm not for, I mean, you can use a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It just doesn't,
You get
nothing
creative.
holds the gravity of that when you say it to somebody. There's no word that's going to really. Now, I will say I don't use that with prayer. But
good.
I have FU'd in prayers and WTF'd in prayers. Usually the F word is in it. Mm-hmm. Either WTF.
That's what the fuck, folks. If anybody is
Oh, okay.
curious.
So we're just going to go there with it.
Well,
it'll have the explicit
I was gonna say
language
it's
tag on our podcast and the YouTube.
We're educating.
And C7.
It comes obviously from a place of hurt, a place from disappointment. You have an idea of what you think it's supposed to be. So, as a kid, if you want something, you pray, and everything that kind of goes with that. One, you're a kid, so your brain really doesn't understand that it's not a genie. You kind of think, oh, okay, this is kind of how this works. As you get older, and usually the disappointment of that seeps in, you kind of change that. I found with prayer, probably the most honest. I mean, one, the point of this podcast is if you're swearing in your prayer, and you're swearing your prayer. So if you're censoring yourself, you're not fooling God. So if you believe enough in God where you're praying, then he knows that you want to swear. So you're not fooling him.
I think, we cross the pearly gates. You're just going to be like, hey, fucker's here. Cool. Right. I would assume he's one of us.
Well, and like you said, you're going to know if I'm not being genuine. Sure. We worked with somebody, her, sweetest lady ever. She used to give me the hardest time. She'd be walking around the dealership and she'd hear me go out and talk to customers on a close on a deal. And I'd have something come out, hey, you got to stop. You can't say that around customers. Well, one, it's Harley Davidson, so yes, you can. And two, that's who I am. Anything else, I'm going to come off super phony.
Right.
Not saying every other word is this or that or this, but same thing with prayer. So you want me to sit there and pretend like I'm supposed to say something that I really want to say, and when it doesn't go that, every once in a while do I drop dude, WTF? Like, right. Really? Are you serious? It's genuine. Because for me, great book that you shared with me was a prayer is a conversation with God. So I'm not asking for something. I'm having a conversation. And when I'm having that conversation, it's how I look at it. Like you said, it's one of us. It's how I look at it. Right. So that's how I would be having that conversation.
It's how you would talk to me or talk to Eddy.
Absolutely.
Same kind of, So
and like to your point, if it's he knows. So, you censoring yourself on it isn't fooling God. He isn't like, right, like, I'm so happy you didn't use that word. He knows your heart. He knows your intentions. Right. So he knows where it's coming from. And again, the reason why we're talking about it is it's a reality. Yeah. I don't care who you are. I've talked to plenty of priests, plenty of religious folks, and all kinds of different. We all have times where, our faith is shattered, or our faith is struggling, or you have questions of what's going on, or what's this all about? Like I said, I'm extremely faithful. I don't know if the rules and regulations have been set, a billion years ago, and as long as you play by it, life is going to go a certain way, meaning, for God, he kind of set this thing up, and as long as you walk this path, things are going to go a certain way. I can't tell you if, is he a coach or is he a player? Yeah. And I can't answer that. I don't know. Same goes for angels or anything like that, which I believe in all these things. I could tell you that if you're going into prayer with that expectation, you're going to be disappointed a lot. I could tell you from experience, you're going to be disappointed a real lot.
And you might know that by if you find yourself cursing while praying.
That's usually where it comes about. I think we've talked about Erwin McManus before, probably in the past, but Erwin McManus is just a stud. The best guy I've ever heard with, so I'm personally not a big Old Testament guy. And he'll go into sermons about it where you're just like, I didn't get that whatsoever. But he said something years ago that if you're praying for something more than once, you are trying to change God's mind. And I was like, holy shit, is that brilliant? That is brilliant. Yeah. And the example he was using was when he asked his wife to marry him. She said she had to pray on it. And I guess it took longer than he expected. And he was like, at that point, you already know the answer.
Yeah.
And I really thought about that in times that I have prayed, especially using that example of when my parents were kind of going through that. You really are. You have your answer. Yeah. So second you put that prayer out there, you're setting your intention. So when we're talking about this, you're not going to change God's mind.
Right.
And to be honest with you, as I said, I don't know if there's a mind to be changed. Meaning, I don't think that God is pulling the strings on you that is making things go one way or the other. I know a lot of people believe that, and that's not to say that God isn't the co-pilot or the pilot. I definitely feel that his presence is there. I don't think you're going to change his mind about it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It actually does.
Yes.
No matter how hard you swear.
Yes. Yeah. Or pray.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that 37th prayer that you had about that same thing that God's like, you know what? I was really going this way with it, but now that you hit number 37, I'm going to change this outcome.
You buy that Powerball ticket. Go ahead.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
The Powerball is actually probably where I've cursed God. I think it was at like $1 billion. And I was like, what kind of positive things I would do in the world with $1 billion? Yeah. It should be me that wins it. God had other ideas.
Oh, I was going to say, every opportunity
he had other ideas. Yeah. I didn't win it. Yeah. So
anything more would have been trying to change his mind.
Right. I did only pray on it once. I did tell God, hey, if I win this, I'm going to change the world. And like I said, he decided it wasn't going to happen by me willing to.
You're a good salesman too. So
I am. Yeah. So I did not win the $1 billion.
Let me ask you a question.
Right. Homelessness. I think I could take a big chunk in. It was like a lot of, I didn't get too far down the fantasy of it.
Did you have a pie chart? This percentage is Eddy's. Right. Look at how much of this percentage goes to charity.
I mean, it was just kind of thought out with, there's a lot of good I could do with $1 billion. God, if you see it fit, I can win this and do some change. I didn't win.
No.
I will say I didn't curse him out over it. I was okay with it.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect to win.
No.
But point being, with a lot of these things, you could get in a real dangerous road of, I know people who lambasted themselves because they did curse in prayer or they did do this horrible thing you're not supposed to be doing if you're a Christian. The list goes on with stuff.
Well, and there's been times where I, especially the stuff that I went through where I was, cursing while praying, rightfully so. And I look back on that now and I'm like, hey, thank you. It didn't make sense in the moment. And things were pretty brutal. And then now things are great. So if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So now there's kind of some apology there. Like, sorry, dude. I didn't really mean what I said.
Looking out.
Like, thanks, So there's that, apology and, there's that forgiveness side of God too, where I think when you realize like, maybe I took it to a little too far, and you can kind of reel that back and, you might get that gold star back, is my point. Yeah.
To that point, that's the dangerous thing with praying like that.
Yes.
Because again, you don't know what the intention is as far as what the outcome is. Is this, step A of F or Z? Right. You don't know where you're at in that travel. So as much as you think that it needs to go this way, he obviously knows better. And like I said, if that's preordained before your feet hit the ground, or that's just how life is set up by him, if he's active role in that, I can't answer any of that. What I can tell you is I've had many circumstances, to your point, where I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of see why that went that way. When I look at probably one of the lowest points in my life of doing stuff that probably wasn't healthy for me, I felt like I was really being punished by God. Like, how could you do this to me? And when I look back of what I was asking for, I was like, yeah, that probably wasn't great life choices at that time. And I really was being protected. But, some curses flew in those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to remember that when you're praying for a win or anything, you have to learn how to lose too. So you got to remember, in order to learn how to grow the lessons that God's teaching you, you have to be taught to win and lose. So just because going left means that that's the right way to go, your path may be to go right, because you have to learn to go through that. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, because I feel like too many times we put out that we only get affirmation when we get, what we think we need from a prayer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Where a lot of times, I know for me, things that I've been through, experiences that I've had, if I wouldn't have, even like stuff that's going through right now in my professional life, there's opportunity, there's things that's going on, and if I hadn't gone through hell in the last 5 years in certain situations, I don't know if I'd be as ready as I am right now. Mm-hmm. So there's always something to come out of it, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, no, for sure. As I said, when I heard that from Erwin McManus, if you're praying about something more than once, you're trying to change his mind, it really hit home for me.
Yeah, that's
because I was thinking about it, and I was like, ooh, yeah. Usually when I did that, the outcome wouldn't have been great had it gone in a different direction. Right. And we talk a lot in the podcast about that middle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what sucks about the middle is you don't know you're in the middle.
Right.
And am I in the beginning of the middle? Am I in the end of the middle? When the hell is this middle going to end?
Am I in the middle of the middle?
Right.
The high you thought you were on was actually the low. Now you're in the middle. And you're about to experience a real high.
That's the real tough part of it. But I think anytime you're being disingenuous in your faith, for whatever reason, if it's I want to swear and I'm not because I'm supposed to be praying and God doesn't like that, or I'm having this thought or that thought, or I want to choke somebody out right now and Jesus doesn't want me to, type thing, you're being disingenuous with yourself. You're not fooling anybody, including yourself, and you sure in hell ain't fooling God.
Right.
So what are you really hoping? If in a true prayer, you're really hoping to get answers, mm-hmm. I think the only way you're really going to get those answers is by being genuine, including anger, including hurt, including fear, upset, all those things.
Yeah.
In faith, who's telling you the do's and don'ts, especially when God doesn't like this or that, doesn't have a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. I think another take on this is maybe if you're new to religion and even new to praying, you do what makes what's comfortable to you. Mm-hmm. So if it's comfortable to drop an F-bomb or swear, or it's how you express your emotion, then absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think that's, like we said, it's a conversation. So you want it to be fluid and you want it to be comfortable. And if that's how you talk, that's how you talk. Mm-hmm. And you're right. You can pick up that you're being genuine as opposed to not.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think God's like, oh, I was going to answer that prayer, but you dropped an F-bomb on there. I'm out. That was against the rules. Yeah. I'm out.
Right.
And again, anybody who tells you that doesn't know shit about God.
Yeah.
See, I just got emotional and I used the word shit.
It's true though.
Mm-hmm. They don't know anything about God. Yeah. It's just the unfortunate. This was really the whole point in Lionz Den. There's just so much misinformation out there. People are just told so much bullshit. I don't know what I was doing on YouTube, but it was a Catholic priest came on, and the three most important things and it was right before the election. the 3 most important things about Christian faith that we must always remember when we're going to the voting booth. And I was like, oh shit, here we go with this nonsense. Sanctity of life, sanctity of marriage, and I can't remember the last thing. It was something else, but and I'm not telling you how to vote, but I am telling you, if you're a Catholic, this is no bueno, that's no bueno.
That's some agenda bullshit if I've ever heard it.
Well, and then I started, and I really had to fight and I was really close to start commenting, but everything's under Lionz Den header. And I was like, oh, great. I'm going to go after this guy.
And climb that mountain and roar, dude. I would have been all about it.
And take that on. But again, I really...
It's a good time to swear. That's right. You and your politics.
That's right, yeah. And that's kind of... I was just like,
New podcast drops on Sunday.
Faith just has no place in politics.
No.
Right? If you're a priest, pastor, whatever, you have no place in politics. It's just, there's nothing good to be said that's going to carry any weight. I completely respect your viewpoint. If sanctity of life, we all have it. I have complete respect and understanding for that. I'm real curious where you stand with the guy that just killed. I mean, we're in Illinois. We had the Highland murders not that long ago. I don't know how many poor people that guy killed. Sanctity of life still important there. Be curious to see the point of view on that, because I bet it's not. Marriage, again, 2 people that with all their heart love each other and they want to get married. I don't give a shit what you are. I don't care if it's 2 guys. I don't care if it's 2 girls. I don't care if it's a guy and a girl. I don't care if it's a guy and a mannequin or whatever the hell. If 2 people genuinely love the mannequin, because the mannequin really doesn't have a choice in it. So I don't know if that's proper, but when we really get into anybody who's judging love,
I'm not touching it.
Anybody who has an opinion on what love is good and what love is bad, I already know you don't have any real relationship with God. You don't know shit about God. All you're talking to me about is it's kind of like that person that armchair quarterback. Who, man, if this guy would have only did this, if you would only made that pass, you're the guy that's never played the game in your life. Right. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you're just going off a playbook.
Right. Yep.
And we hear that a real lot in faith.
I think even for me, and I've talked about it before, my take on religion is a little different, and I come from that, kind of that punk rock background of, you can't tell me what to do, And what I like about what we're doing here is it's kind of opening that up to people of what has been said and how this is structured. Maybe that's not exactly right. You need to find what path works for you, what voice works for you, your own path to religion, and finding that. If it involves swearing, so be it.
Right.
But to your point, I think it's really important if somebody's pushing you one way and it just doesn't seem right to you, then don't go that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think with going on what path to go, there's only one thing that should stop you going down a path, and that's if your moral compass is just going off kiltered.
Which changes, by the way.
Yeah, not.
I mean, your moral compass changes throughout your life,
without a doubt. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be somebody's opinion that sways you. Your moral compass could be different than somebody else's. I mean, so that conscious, that thing that's kind of directing you, that's that. Whatever you want to describe it, that's what, when you lay your head on your pillow every night, that's what it is that either keeps you up at night or allows you to go to bed. Because the decisions that you make every day are decisions that you can't change. It's the past. The minute you make that decision, you can't go back on it. So when you go to make that decision, that's when you really have to pay attention to your moral compass. Whether there's people that you want to follow, but it's not right for you, you can't sell yourself. And that's where I think people struggle a lot with that is even in prayer. They kind of pray for the things that they don't know they need. It's more of a self agenda or something they want.
Or it's just not genuine.
Right.
Meaning that you're mad as all hell and you are pissed at God right now,
Yep.
and you get on your knees and you, with every ounce of your soul, want to go into a pirate's tirade, and you don't because, if I do that, God's going to be mad at me. So I promise you, you're going to do worse things in your life than throw some F-bombs at God. And I also promise you, he's heard it all before. And again, if you believe there's a higher power there that's worth doing that act, is worth getting on your knees, worth praying, or however you pray. If you're praying sitting up, whatever the case may be, he knows your heart. So it's not like you're, I fooled God on this one. I really wanted to tell him to go F himself, but I sugarcoated it, and now it's going to somehow fall on better ears. You're not fooling anybody.
And prayer isn't. It's like when you start prayer, it's not like that's the only time God's listening. Just so we all are on the same page.
For sure.
So if you have a thought, just because you're choosing to share it with God, if you don't know this already, I hate to be the one to break it. He already knows.
For sure.
So the whole point of prayer, in my opinion, not the point of prayer, that's probably a bad way to put it, but for me, prayer isn't an opportunity to let God know where my intent is or where my head is at. It's a way for me to show that I'm aware of it, because God's already aware, because God's all knowing. God knows what's going on with me. Me praying, me talking about it, me asking for strength is me showing that I recognize I'm at a point where I need strength. God already knows what I need. And that's it's hard to explain where the moral compass comes in, right? Because I think that's where that lifeblood of the moral compass comes from, is, what you're supposed to be doing.
Definitely. And as far as moral compass goes, I'm not here telling you there's not consequences to the decisions you make.
No.
As when we say your faith, your religion, all these things are open and they're all roads you're going to travel, I'm not here telling you there's not consequences to that. No. Because there is.
Yeah.
You go right and you're supposed to go left.
Yeah.
There are consequences to that. What we're telling you is it's not my place to tell you that. I could forewarn you. I could definitely give you a heads up that, hey, I could tell anybody, and I don't have to tell them because they know. If you're gay, lesbian person, transsexual, any of that in this life, in this world, in this, I wouldn't just say United States, really, honestly, anywhere in this country, life's not easy for you.
Right.
It's something you already know.
Right.
Those are some of the consequences to that. At the same time, I don't believe you have a choice in that.
Right. And,
I can't speak for any of them because that's not where I'm at in my life. But, that's part of that consequence. Same thing for a heterosexual. There's consequences to that. There's consequences to all our actions and all the decisions we make. Part of that is that middle. Part of that is growth. You start to feel that. You learn to adapt. You learn to grow. You learn to evolve. And that's just the reality of that. Same thing with prayer. For me, the consequences of getting on my knees and flipping the bird to God every night was I was creating more of a distance with God, and I was creating more of a distance in my faith. I was a connection that was super strong for me. I was losing it because he was no longer an ally; he was an enemy.
Right.
So that was a real consequence of that, and it took me quite a few years to regain that connection. Yeah. God doesn't need that connection. I need that connection. Right. God's God. So Eddy's on his side or not, he ain't losing any sleep over it. Right. We're the ones that need that connection. Yeah. That's also where I say anyone that needs to praise or quote unquote worship, again, if you really believe that God gives a shit, if you think he's the coolest thing in the world or not, you probably don't have a strong concept of who God is. Because God is God. He's the greatest, period. Doesn't matter if you believe it or not. That's just the reality of it. I don't think he needs that encouragement from you of, hey, you're a really peachy king, God. I appreciate it so much. To Alex's point, it's a self-affirmation.
Yeah.
It's us knowing it that matters. It's us recognizing it that matters, because that is what ultimately changes your moral compass. You do understand that there's a bigger world out there. There's more going on than just us. We are connected, all those different things.
Yeah.
What else you guys want to add to that?
No, I mean, I should have just written my idea down on a sheet of paper, because I couldn't have explained it that way. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cause and effect. I mean, it's the cause and effect of, it goes back to 2 episodes ago for us of just being vulnerable. I mean, when you're praying, when you're having that conversation, you have to be vulnerable. And, we made light of it today about swearing while praying, but the reality is it goes around the horn. So swearing is an emotion of being angry. If I'm excited and I'm sprinting around my room jumping for joy talking to God because I had a great experience, or if I'm crying on my knees because I just went through hell, and you can do all the above. It's just being vulnerable, right? Because remember back to eating the apple, you were born into sin. So we are sinners as a species. So accepting that fact and figuring out how you can move forward. For me, when I make decisions that I know could put me in a bad situation, it's a look in the mirror and understand the fact that, hey, there could be a bad outcome here. I try to be self-reflective with that. And it's a different story than when the outcome is bad, because then it's not, well, woe is me. It's, well, I knew this shit could happen. It happened, and it's time to move forward, right? And that's where growth comes in. But that's the middle that people don't talk about. That's the hard part that people leave out, because that's usually where you show yourself at your worst. Because when you were going through those things, you weren't either capable of handling them, or maybe you refused to. And I think that's a big part of why people don't share that middle, is because they necessarily weren't proud of who they were at that time, if that makes sense.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I think your point was really good about, because this is kind of tongue in cheek about swearing when you pray, but getting to that point where you're so angry at God, where you're swearing, where you create that distance. You don't ever really want to take it there, and sometimes in the moment that feels right. But it was a good point where you said it took you a while to get that back, that feeling of almost camaraderie. It's like, it's telling one of your friends to kick rocks. Same thing, like, hey bro, sorry, I didn't really mean that. But it takes a while to build that relationship back up. So express yourself when you pray, but if you take it too far, you got to realize there are almost some sort of consequences to some degree,
On your own doing, though.
And you're wrong. Yeah, correct.
A wall that you build yourself.
Correct. Yes.
And to that point, that's that middle, and that's your middle in faith. And that goes a lot of different directions. A lot of people don't come back from that.
Right.
When you talk to a lot of people who don't have faith, don't believe there's a God, that's usually where it starts. If there's a God, why is there murders? Why do people get raped? Why do children die? Why is there war? Why is there famine? So it kind of starts in that, not necessarily prayers that don't get answered, but, well, why are there hurricanes? Why does all this shit happen if there's this big, great, wonderful guy up in the sky?
Right.
And again, the more you walk down that road, the more that anger builds and that disappointment and that hurt, you're kind of creating a chasm there between you and your relationship with God. And the bigger that gets, just like anything else in life, the harder it is, to close that back up.
Right.
And that's just, a reality of that. Part of that, though, is the idea of it's not supposed to be this way. I'm not supposed to swear in prayer. So if I do, I'm going to hell. I'm not supposed to look at this person this way that is super hot, because if I do, I'm going to hell. I'm not supposed to watch this movie, because if I do, I'm not supposed to love this person, that person, when you get a lot of that bad, and it all really just comes down, the whole point of this podcast is just being genuine in what's going on, because you're going to ride that ride one way or the other. It doesn't matter if you're lying about it or not. Honestly, my reality in life is the more disingenuous. I mean, it's really why I'm so honest about shit, because it's just exhausting to not be. It just makes your ride so much longer than it needs to be.
Right.
Don't do it with God. There's no point.
You're
ride that ride. If you're pissed, let it fly. Because the quicker you do it, the quicker you're going to get through it.
Right. Yep.
Is there anything else, guys?
No,
I don't think so.
It's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share. And thank you guys for always having honest discussions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.